Adrian, I mean, the Black Demon, I was a bit at the edge of my seat and I was laying down. So I was at the edge of my sofa when I was watching this film.
Good. I'm glad. I guess. I guess that's a good thing.
Yes, of course. Now, I didn't get a chance to check out the detailed cast, but from the beginning, I was super happy to see Omar Chaparro, who's kind of my neighbor.
Okay. Okay.
And one of the things that we could talk about this already, I guess, is how you have this magical inspiration to bring in wonderful known Mexican casts into your films.
Well, let's start with the fact that I am Mexican. I know I don't look it, but I am. So to me, it was sort of that's sort of what I like and what I do. And also the script that was sent to me has obviously this Mexican flavor, which is one of the big reasons that attracted me to it, and trying to continue this whole Mexican thing into the script. And then the idea was to have somebody famous die, in, no spoilers here, but the idea of having somebody like Omar and seeing one and then getting chomped just sort of made a lot of sense. And there's not many stars as big as Omar in these days, in our market anyway. So it was amazing. It was amazing to get him.
Yes, I'll start with, that was one of my starting highlights.
Good. Then it hit its mark.
Yes, it did. So I feel like this film is opening a big branch of topics. We have Mother Nature. We have us humans, what we are doing to it. But it also comes in with like using the metaphor of the Aztec history. Can you talk a little bit about that and how were challenged to integrate that based on the writing?
I think it was there in the original script. I always wanted to bring more into it. I'm not a scholar of the Aztec culture, but look, I do live here. This is something that is very deep in the Mexican culture. So I know a bunch about it, and I wanted to add more to it. And the whole idea that this being, first of all, that the shark is not a bad shark. This is not an eating machine that is intent in destroying or killing anybody. It just wants to get rid of that rig. And if some people need to pay the price, then so be it. But it's for a bigger purpose. And then adding that, and like you said, this whole thing about nature, but this has been this whole thought of us as a species and what we're doing to the planet. This has been happening for thousands of years. The Mayans cultivated and destroyed large amounts of forest to feed its citizens. It's not new. It's not something we created in the last 100 years. We've made it a lot worse. But to understand that this has been happening for a while, and that there is a communion between how we could and hopefully should live hand in hand with nature, and the pursuit of that, I think, is what brings Tlaloc and the whole mythology in a way that Mexicans really get. The understanding that death is not the end of anything. That's why Chato is okay staying there. He doesn't mind dying for this, because there's other things coming in front of him, and that's something Paul from another culture learns. But it's in the Mexican mythology all over the place. So it was just important to, as much as I could, reiterate that and bring that to the surface was one of the main ideas.
It took me a while to figure it out, but how the town is just kind of like, let Tlaloc take its course.
Yes, and I think and it does take a while, and that's it's a purposeful thing. It's not something that is immediately clear. There's the music helps, there's certain images there, but it's not thrown on, on you. And Paul mentions it, but little by little, you get, you understand that this is maybe not the place that it once was, but the truth is it's suffering. And I think one of the main things as well is, we always deal on, there's global warming on a bigger scale, but it all starts with a smaller scale. And we have our little rig off the coast of Baja, which is damaging the livelihoods of small villages. And that's how it starts. And it's a little problem here, which becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So, you want to try and as a culture, start small, there's a village, and before the village, there's a street, and then there's 2 houses, so bringing it down to a smaller level, I think, makes it clearer for people.
I only brought up like the Mexican cast, but let's bring up to finding your badass white boy for the
Badass
film.
white boy, absolutely. Well, we needed a güero, and there's plenty out there, but I know from my conversations with Josh, he is very savvy as a human being. He takes his trade as a professional, but there's a big hearted human being very close to the surface of that. And that's what drew me. I knew him as an actor. I liked him as an actor, but the proximity that we had as humans to each other, and the way he analyzes life and situations, I think are very different from Paul, but are very close to the Paul that we end up discovering, or he rediscovers himself. Josh is that guy. And I think it was better even for me as a director to start off with a character closer to the Paul at the end of the movie and bring him back to that guy he is at the beginning, than the other way around. Having somebody who's a bit of an asshole, who's more of a Western ideals, and more of a capitalist thinker, and shifting into this place where we need to be better, and Josh has that. And so I think it was also easier for him to go back to extrapolate that, become an asshole, and then become the serious human being he ends up being, and sacrificing himself for his family particularly, and for all of us in a way.
And what was it like casting kids, like the young kids, especially like the little boy, because he's a little bit of a key in this film?
It was very, very much the main key to me, because he was at that age that he still, because even his sister Audrey is at an age where she's blossoming into an adult, and the boy had to transit between the world he lives in with his parents in the States, and this otherworldly, and be open-minded enough to soak in the whole mythology of Tlaloc and the Mexicanism. And that was the only character who could do that. So it was very hard. It was very excruciating, because we didn't know. With kids, it's hard to know, and unless you get somebody who you've seen act before and you understand it. But Carlitos was so small that he had acted in a movie prior, and we talked to the producers, and they said he is amazing, and we said, okay, we'll dive in, but half blind, and he hit it out of the park. He was amazing. He was curious. He was very much like Tommy is. He's curious. He's asking questions. He's debating how his character will react, or at least asking why his character acts in a certain way. And that's very hard in a kid his age. So it's amazing.
Now, how is it to bring in the shark? How do you create him?
Well,
that's challenging, because there have been several past shark movies, so you want to make them a little different.
Yes, and one of the main, visually, the whole idea of making him black, as the legend of it says, gave it one particular look. then we try to give it a history. There's the scarring. It's an animal that has seen many battles of this kind throughout its lifetime. So that's why it's scarred from previous battles and from the battle he is waging with the rig, right? Hitting it and trying to bring it down. And then I think one of the big things was not overusing the shark. I mean, to me, this is more about family, and it's more about nature, and it's more about the Tlaloc and this whole and the mythology than it is about the actual shark. The shark is a tool that Tlaloc uses. So I think it was important to not overuse the shark, not feel like you have to go to it too much. And that's hopefully how we hopefully created something, at least with its own life within the shark realm.
Do you think there is a black demon shark of Cortez?
I don't know. I've heard the stories. It's one of those things that I'm an agnostic about it. Why not? But even if it's not black, although they say it's black, the whole idea, and again, it goes to the whole mythology thing, the whole idea of tying its existence, if it is real, to something from our past would make me like it better if he was real.
I read somewhere you said something. It's about knowing who the real monster is of our time. So is it us?
Absolutely. And I think Fernanda says it, says it to Fernanda, the actress, right? To Josh, she says, "You're the monster. That's not the monster out there. You're the monster." And the reason our black demon exists is because it only surfaces when it's summoned, and it is only summoned when nature is in peril. So if a hurricane can't be nature in peril because it's nature itself. It is only us who consciously do these things that hurt us. We hurt the planet, but ultimately we're hurting ourselves. So it's not. So yes, who is the monster? A shark can't be a monster. Even the baddest shark out there doesn't kill for its own pleasure. There's a reason behind it, and we don't do that. So we are the real monsters. Yes,
we're the ones invading its habitat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to start wrapping up, I think you're like one of the luckiest directors, because you've worked with some high caliber actors, Mel Gibson, Stallone, and then going back to, I said Mexico because I'm Mexican. I got excited about Omar.
Yep.
And I hadn't even seen Raúl Mendes in the film yet, who I also love. What's next? Because I gathered you're in Mexico, you're working on something right now. What will we do?
Yes, I'm in Mexico, y sí soy mexicano, aunque no lo parezca, pero sí soy mexicano.
Eres de los míos.
Sin duda. And not only actors, I've had the pleasure and the luxury of working with some amazing directors throughout my career, and all of that has made me in part the director that I am today, whether it's good or bad, but at least I've had really good teachers. I do live in Mexico, and the reason we are both here on a Sunday, and I appreciate you taking time off on a Sunday, is because I'm shooting. I'm in the middle of a Netflix series that we're shooting here in Mexico. So I'm open to everything, but my true culture is the Hispanic culture. So that's what I know better.
Well, in that case, I look forward to in the future interviewing in Spanish for a Spanish project.
Absolutely.
Because you have done some of my favorites. Luis Miguel, La Serie, you worked on that.
Yep.
So yeah, I hope in the future hablamos en español para una entrevista.
Perfecto. Aquí estaremos.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Congratulations.
Thank you. You too.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.